Chosen one. Something is already moving in your life, but you can stop it without even knowing. You did not find this video. This video found you. And if you scroll past before I finish speaking, you may walk away from the very moment I have been preparing for longer than you know. I am not talking to everyone. I am talking to you, because you carry something in your spirit that most people around you cannot see, and it is starting to activate right now. Do not treat this moment casually. What you are about to understand has the power to change what you have been waiting on. This is not inspiration. This is a warning and a release at the same time. Type 111 if you feel this is for you. I gave you 3 gifts that almost no one on earth carries together. I gave you intercession, not just the ability to pray, but the ability to pray until something shifts. When you cry out, things move in the unseen before you ever see the result. I gave you sensitivity to my spirit. You have felt my presence in rooms where no one else noticed anything. You have heard my voice in moments that looked ordinary. And I gave you awareness of spiritual warfare. You have felt battles that had no physical explanation, heaviness that did not belong to you, resistance that came the moment you were about to step forward. You did not imagine any of it. I allowed you to feel it because I needed someone who could stand in it without running. But here is what I need you to hear carefully. These 3 gifts together are rare. And because they are rare, the enemy has spent years trying to convince you that you are too sensitive, too intense, too much. He did not attack your weakness. He attacked your assignment. Every time you pulled back, went quiet, or told yourself you were imagining things, that was interference, not failure, interference. And there is a difference. The reason I am speaking to you now is because something is shifting in this season, and your participation is required, not your perfection, your participation. I do not need you to have everything together. I need you to stop dismissing what I placed inside you as if it were ordinary. You were not built for ordinary. You were built for moments that require someone who can feel, who can stand, and who can pray when everyone else has gone silent. Pause. And like this video, because what is being released over you right now is not accidental, and someone else needs to find it too. You keep telling yourself you're waiting, but let's be honest, some of that wasn't waiting. It was you sitting on your bed at 2 a.m., staring at your phone, knowing there's something you should do next, and not doing it. You call it silence. But a lot of the time, it was hesitation dressed up as patience. And still, despite that, something has been building in you. Think about those nights when you tried to pray, and your mind kept drifting. When you said the same words again and again, not even sure if anything was listening. Most people would have quit there. You didn't. That matters more than you think. But don't twist it into something comfortable. Because if all those prayers were really building something, then answer this. Why did you go quiet right after your last moment of clarity? You remember it. That one moment where everything felt sharp. You knew exactly what needed to change. Maybe it was a decision, a conversation, walking away from something, stepping into something. And then you slowed down again. So no, this isn't just about you've been carrying something heavy. It's that you've been carrying something real, and then second-guessing it the moment it asks something from you. You were not difficult. You were different. And the world does not know what to do with different. There were people in your life who should have recognized what you carried. People who should have looked at you and seen something set apart. Instead, they looked at you and saw a problem. Too emotional, too serious, too deep, too quiet, too intense. And because they said it enough times, you started to believe that the very things I placed inside you were defects that needed to be corrected. That is one of the most dangerous lies you ever accepted. And I need you to hear me clearly right now. Everything they called too much was exactly the right amount for what I designed you to do. Think about this for a moment. The people who misunderstood you most were not your enemies in the way you think. Some of them loved you. Some of them were trying to help you. But they were measuring you with the wrong ruler. They used ordinary standards to evaluate an extraordinary design, and when you did not fit their measurement, they concluded the problem was you. It was never you. You cannot measure a frequency with a ruler. You cannot weigh light, and you cannot evaluate a gift you were never given the capacity to understand. But here is where the tension lives, and I need you to stay with me, because this is the part that can still damage what I am doing in your life right now. Some of you did not just receive those words from other people. You agreed with them. You sat with the rejection long enough that it began to feel like truth. And when rejection feels like truth, you stop moving in your gifts without even realizing it. You stop praying with authority because somewhere deep down, you are not sure your prayers are the kind that move anything. You stop trusting what you feel in the spirit because you have been told too many times that you are imagining things. You pull back from the warfare because you are tired of fighting battles that no one else around you can even see, let alone acknowledge. And that pulling back, that quiet retreat into smallness, is exactly what was being engineered against you. It was not depression alone. It was not just low self-esteem. There was a targeted effort to use the voices of people close to you to shut down the very gifts that make you dangerous to darkness. The enemy is not dramatic all the time. Sometimes he is patient. Sometimes he works slowly through relationships, through words spoken at the wrong moment, through years of being overlooked in rooms where you should have been seen. And by the time you noticed something was wrong, you had already been living smaller than your design for longer than you should have. I want to tell you something specific about the isolation you felt, not the general loneliness that everyone experiences at some point. I mean the specific kind of alone that comes when you are in a room full of people and still feel completely unseen. That particular feeling, the one that has followed you into churches, into families, into friendships, into seasons where you tried to belong and still felt like a visitor, that was not a sign that something was wrong with you. That was the feeling of a person who carries an assignment that the people around them were not equipped to hold with them. I isolated you in certain seasons, not to punish you, but to protect the gift inside you from being diluted by environments that would have taught you to shrink it. Because here is what happens when someone with your gifts spends too long in spaces that cannot hold them. They begin to perform a smaller version of themselves just to make others comfortable. They learn to suppress the intercession so they do not seem too intense. They learn to question the sensitivity so they do not seem unstable. They learn to avoid the spiritual warfare conversations so they do not seem strange. And slowly, without a dramatic moment of decision, they trade their design for acceptance. And I cannot work with a traded design. I need the original. I need the full version of what I built, not the edited version that learned to survive in spaces that were never meant to hold your purpose. The people who walked away from you did not take anything from you, but the agreements you made with their opinions, those cost you something real. And right now, in this moment, I am asking you to identify one agreement you made about yourself based on someone else's inability to understand you. One word they used to describe you that you carried as if it were your name, because that word is not your name. That word was a mislabeling by someone who encountered something they were not prepared for. And you have been living under a wrong name long enough. This is not small. This is not a gentle encouragement to feel better about yourself. This is a direct confrontation with something that has been limiting the full operation of your gifts. Your intercession cannot reach its full depth when you believe your prayers are too much. Your sensitivity cannot function at full clarity when you believe your feelings are a problem. Your awareness of warfare cannot protect what I am building in you when you have been taught to doubt every warning you feel in your spirit. The misunderstanding you survived was an attack on your functionality, not just your feelings, and you are still carrying some of the damage from it right now in this moment. But I did not bring you to this moment to leave you there. I brought you here because this is the season where the mislabeling ends, where the wrong names get dropped, where you stop apologizing for the depth I gave you and start understanding that the depth was the point. Every person who called you too sensitive was standing in front of a gift they could not afford. Every person who told you that you think too deeply was looking at a level of discernment they did not have access to. Every season you spent alone was a season I was using to make sure the gift did not get contaminated by voices that would have taught you to be less than what I made you. You were never the problem. You were always the gift. And the world's inability to recognize that early enough does not change what I placed inside you before you were born. Type 111 if you are starting to see yourself differently. The attacks on your life were never random. They were targeted. And that should tell you something. Random people do not get targeted attacks. Ordinary assignments do not attract extraordinary resistance. If your life had nothing significant inside it, the opposition you have faced would not have been so specific, so persistent, and so perfectly aimed at the exact things I placed inside you. Poverty does not just happen to people like you by accident. Delay does not just follow certain people for no reason. There is an intelligence behind what has been working against you, and it knew what you carried before you did. Think about the timing of the attacks. Every time you were close to something, a breakthrough, a moment of clarity, a season where things were finally starting to move, something came in and disrupted it. A sudden crisis, an unexpected loss, a relationship that pulled your focus, a wave of heaviness that had no logical explanation. You called it bad luck. You called it your season. Some of you called it God testing you. But I need you to understand something specific. Not every disruption in your life was a test. Some of it was interference, and interference only comes when something is worth interfering with. The enemy studied you. He watched where your intercession was most powerful, and he sent discouragement exactly there. He watched how deeply you feel the Spirit, and he sent confusion exactly there. He watched how aware you are of spiritual battles, and he worked overtime to make you look unstable to the people around you, so that your warnings would be dismissed and your voice would be isolated. He did not attack you broadly, he attacked you surgically. And the fact that the attacks were that precise should tell you that what I placed inside you is that significant. But here is the tension I need you to sit with right now. Some of the interference worked, not permanently, not fatally, but it worked enough to slow things down. It worked enough to make you doubt. It worked enough to keep you in cycles of lack and waiting longer than was necessary. And the way it worked was not through dramatic destruction. It was through quiet erosion. Small doubts repeated long enough become beliefs. Small delays accepted long enough become identity. And when a person with your gifts begins to believe that lack is just their life and waiting is just their portion, the gifts go dormant. Not dead, dormant. And dormant gifts do not produce what I designed them to produce. This is why I am speaking to you now and not later, because there is a window in this season, and what has been dormant in you is being called back to full operation. The intercession that went quiet needs to rise again. The sensitivity you suppressed needs to be trusted again. The warfare discernment you doubted needs to be activated again. The enemy knew what you carried before you did, but now you know, and that changes everything. Because a gift that is recognized, named, and owned is far more dangerous than one that is hidden, doubted, and dormant. You were targeted because you are significant. Receive that. Type 999 if you feel this breaking something open in you right now. Those prayers you prayed alone, in the dark, when nothing came back, they did not disappear. They landed. I need you to understand something about how intercession works, because most people with your gift have a completely wrong picture of it. They think prayer works like a light switch. You press it, something turns on immediately, and if nothing turns on, the prayer failed. But your gift does not operate like a light switch. It operates like a foundation being laid underground. Nobody sees it. Nobody celebrates it. And the person doing the work sometimes wonders if anything is even happening. But when the building finally rises, it rises because of what was laid in the dark, where no one was watching. You have been laying foundation for years. In seasons of lack, you still prayed. In seasons of silence, you still sought me. In seasons where you had every reason to grow bitter and walk away, something in your spirit refused to let go. That was not your strength. That was the gift functioning exactly as I designed it. Intercession does not require perfect conditions. It does not require you to feel it working. It requires a person who will stand in the gap even when standing feels pointless. And you have been that person more times than you have given yourself credit for. But here is what I need you to understand right now, and this is specific. Some of what you have been waiting for in the natural, the provision, the open door, the sudden shift, the thing that has no logical explanation for why it has not arrived yet, it has already been released in the spirit. The prayer reached its target. The request was heard. The answer was set in motion. What you are experiencing right now is not rejection from heaven. It is the gap between spiritual release and natural manifestation. And that gap is not empty. That gap is loaded with everything I have been aligning on your behalf while you could not see any movement. Now, here is the tension, and I will not skip over it because it matters. That gap can be extended by what you do next. This is the part your gift requires you to hear without flinching. Intercession does not end at the prayer. It includes the posture you carry while you wait for what you prayed for to arrive. If you prayed for breakthrough and then spent the following months in fear, in complaint, in the belief that nothing was coming, you were not holding the position your gift requires. You were releasing what your intercession secured. Not because I punished you for your feelings, but because faith and fear cannot occupy the same space in the spirit. And whichever one you feed is the one that shapes what you can receive. Some of you are so close right now that if you understood how close you actually are, you would not be able to sleep tonight. The intercession you carried through your worst seasons built something in the spirit that is preparing to break through into the natural. The tears that felt wasted were not wasted. The midnight prayers that felt one-sided were never one-sided. I was in every single one of them. And what was built through them is real. It is finished in the spirit. And it is coming through the surface in this season. If you do not abandon your position now, do not stop now. Do not go quiet now. Do not let the length of the wait convince you that the answer was never coming. You are not waiting because you were forgotten. You are waiting because what I am bringing through requires the ground to be fully ready. And the ground is almost ready. I need you to stop reading this like it is general encouragement meant for a crowd. This is not a broadcast. This is a conversation between me and one person who has been waiting long enough, endured enough, and prayed enough to be standing exactly at this threshold. The reason this found you today, on this specific day, in this specific season of your life, is not a coincidence you should scroll past casually. I do not operate in coincidences. I operate in appointed times, and your appointed time has a date on it, and that date is closer than your current circumstances are telling you. Something just changed. Right now. In you. Whether you feel it dramatically or not, something in the spirit shifted the moment you began receiving this word seriously. And here is why that matters specifically for someone who carries your three gifts together. When intercession activates in a new season, it does not just change your prayer life. It changes your atmosphere. The people around you begin to be affected by what is moving through you even before they understand why. When sensitivity to my spirit activates at a new level, you begin receiving guidance with a clarity you have not had before. Directions that were foggy become specific. Confirmations that took months begin coming faster. And when warfare discernment activates, you stop being surprised by the resistance and start being positioned ahead of it instead of recovering from it after the fact. All three of your gifts are being called to a higher level of operation simultaneously. And that does not happen by accident. That happens when I am about to move someone into a new dimension of their assignment. It happened to people in Scripture at specific moments before their lives change completely. It did not happen gradually over years of slow progress. It happened suddenly, at an appointed time, after a season of preparation that looked like nothing from the outside, but was everything on the inside. You have had that season. You have lived inside that season for longer than felt fair, and now the season is changing. Here is the tension I will not hide from you. Activation requires response. I cannot activate what you will not move. The shift happening in your spirit right now is an invitation, not a transaction. It is me saying the door is open, not me carrying you through it. Some people receive a word like this, feel it deeply in the moment, type their amen in the comments, and then return to the exact same posture of waiting they had before. And when nothing changes, they conclude that the word was not real, but the word was real. The activation was real. What was missing was the response that matches the level of what was released. You cannot receive a now word and respond with a someday posture. It does not work that way. So, I am asking you directly, what posture have you been carrying while you waited? Have you been praying like someone whose intercession moves things? Or have you been going through motions, hoping something eventually shifts? Have you been trusting what you feel in the spirit? Or have you been second-guessing every impression because you are afraid of being wrong again? Have you been standing in the warfare with the authority I gave you? Or have you been absorbing it like a victim instead of engaging it like someone who knows they were built for this? Because the activation that is available to you right now requires you to pick up what you have been leaving on the ground. You have come too far in this word to leave the same way you arrived. But I have to be honest with you about what can still stop this. I told you at the beginning that something is happening, but you can mess it up. I need to return to that now because this is the section most people skip in their spirit. They receive the encouragement, they receive the identity, they receive the activation and the assignment. And then when the warning comes, they assume it is for someone else because they have already decided they are going to be different this time. But the people who mess this up are rarely the ones who rejected the word entirely. They are almost always the ones who received it deeply, felt it genuinely, and then went back to their lives and let 3 specific things quietly dismantle everything that was released. I am going to name those 3 things specifically because your gifts make you vulnerable to all 3 in ways that are unique to who you are. The first one is distraction dressed as responsibility. This is the most dangerous one for someone who carries intercession because you feel everything and everyone around you. The moment you step away from this word and return to your life, there will be needs pulling at you from every direction. A family member in crisis, a financial pressure demanding immediate attention, a relationship that requires your emotional energy. And none of those things are illegitimate. They are real. But the enemy knows that the fastest way to pull someone with your gifts off their assignment is not through temptation. It is through overwhelming them with genuine needs until the thing I released in them today gets buried under the weight of everything urgent. Urgent is the enemy of important, and what I released in you today is important. What will pull at you tomorrow will feel urgent. You have to decide right now which one you will protect. The second thing is doubt that arrives disguised as wisdom. This is the one that targets your sensitivity specifically. It will not come as obvious unbelief. It will come as reasonable questions. It will sound like maturity. It will say things like, maybe I was just emotional when I received that word. Maybe I am reading too much into this. Maybe I should wait until I have more confirmation before I actually change anything. And the longer you entertain those questions, the more reasonable they will sound, and the more the activation that happened in your spirit today will recede back into dormancy. I am not telling you to be reckless. I am telling you that there is a specific window after a word like this where the enemy works overtime to reframe what you received as emotionalism so that you return to smallness before what was activated has a chance to produce anything visible. Do not give him that window. What you felt in your spirit today was real. Protect it like it is real. The third thing is the most subtle and the most specific to someone who carries warfare discernment. It is spiritual exhaustion used as a reason to stay still. You have been in battles for a long time. Long seasons of fighting things you cannot explain to people who cannot see what you see. And there is a tiredness in you that is real and that I do not dismiss. But there is a difference between rest that restores and withdrawal that surrenders. Some of you have been calling surrender rest for so long that you no longer know the difference. You have been telling yourself you are taking a break from the warfare when what has actually happened is that you stopped engaging and the battle stopped feeling as intense simply because you stopped being a threat. Peace through surrender is not the peace I designed for you. And in this new season of activation, the enemy will use your genuine exhaustion as a reason to keep you from picking up the authority I am restoring to you right now. Here is what makes this warning different from a general caution. These three things, distraction, doubt, and exhaustion, are not going to announce themselves. They are not going to arrive looking like enemies. They are going to arrive looking like your normal life. Distraction will look like being a good parent, a good friend, a responsible person. Doubt will look like being grounded and not getting carried away. Exhaustion will look like wisdom and self-care. And if you are not watching for them specifically, you will walk straight into all three without realizing that you are dismantling what was just released over you. So, I am asking you to do something specific before you finish this word. I am asking you to identify right now which of these three has historically been the one that pulled you back the most. Which one has ended the most of your breakthrough seasons before they fully manifested? Because the one that worked before is the one that will be deployed against you first in this new season. And knowing it is coming is the difference between being ambushed and being prepared. You are prepared now. You know what is moving, you know what is at stake, you know what the gifts inside you are capable of, and you know what has been sent to stop you from walking in them. The only thing left is the decision you make in the next 24 hours about whether you will treat what happened in your spirit today as a real and significant moment that requires a real and significant response, or whether you will let it become another word that moved you temporarily and changed nothing permanently. I did not bring you through everything you have survived to watch you stop at the threshold. You are not someone who stops at the threshold. You are someone who was built to walk through it, and the door is open right now. Type 111 if you refuse to let distraction, doubt, or exhaustion take this season from you. This is the part where most people feel something and then do nothing with it. Don't skip this, not because it's powerful, but because this is exactly where you usually disconnect. You've done this before. You heard something that hit you. You felt it in your chest. For a few minutes, you believed it. And then, you went back to scrolling, back to the same habits, back to waiting for a better time. So let's not pretend this is different unless you actually make it different. What I'm about to ask you to do is simple, but it's also where you tend to hesitate. Not because it's hard, because it's uncomfortable. Speaking something out loud forces you to confront whether you actually believe it, or just like how it sounds. And if you don't believe it yet, good. That's where this starts. Don't just read this passively. Sit up, slow down. Read it like you're testing it, not performing it. I am not behind. I just delayed decisions I knew I needed to make. I am not confused. I've ignored clear signals because acting on them would change things I'm used to. The way I notice tension in a room, the way I pick up on things before people say them, that's real. What's not real is how often I've dismissed it to stay comfortable. I've had moments, specific moments, where I knew exactly what needed to change, and I didn't move. That's on me. But I'm not starting from zero. I've already proven something. I didn't quit when things felt pointless. I didn't walk away when nothing seemed to move. I stayed, even when I doubted. That matters. Now here's what changes. Within the next 24 hours, I will act on one thing I already know I've been avoiding. Not something new, not something vague, something specific. A message I've been delaying, a decision I've been circling, a situation I keep tolerating. Even though I know it's wrong, I already know what it is. And this time, I'm not going to pause at that moment like I always do. Distraction will show up, like it always does. It'll look like something urgent, something reasonable. But I've seen that pattern before. Doubt will show up too. It'll sound like, think about it more. Wait a little longer. Don't rush. That's not wisdom. That's delay. And exhaustion? That's the easiest excuse I use. But I know the difference between resting and avoiding. So, here's the line. I'm not waiting for a feeling. I'm not waiting for certainty. I'm moving with what I already know. Because every time I ignored that, I stayed stuck. Nothing mystical needs to happen next. No sign, no confirmation. Just one decision I stop avoiding. That's it. Most people won't do this. They'll feel this, agree with it, and still do nothing. If I do the same, then everything I just read was just entertainment. And I'm done treating this like entertainment. You don't need to tell anyone in the comments. That's not where this proves itself. You prove it in the next 24 hours. When that moment shows up again, it will.